Chip Kelly. Why leave a head coaching position to go be the OC at Ohio State?
I think really the job he had at UCLA changed dramatically in the time he was there, the 6 years. And it really did right when NIL came in. I think for him, it was you were going to be constantly fighting with a short stick. They would lose recruits as it became more and more of a thing where NIL really turned into pay for play. And I think they really had a hard time reconciling, hey, are we going to have boosters involved in the process? And then I also think you have a guy who honestly would much rather coach football and call plays and try to develop players as opposed to go spend a lot of time out on the booster circuit with donors and trying to really rally for NIL. And I think that became increasingly harder, honestly, over time, because I think there was a lot of UCLA fans who were over Chip Kelly, a few years ago. So it was just more of a disconnect. I think it grew further than that. I know this past year, they had a bowl game. His quarterback coach left to become the offensive coordinator at Oregon State. So Kelly jumped in to be the quarterback coach. And I think he was very happy with that and liked be able to be hands-on in the meeting with the players, where you're much more involved than you would be as a head coach. So when he interviewed for some NFL offensive coordinator jobs, I think that was appealing to him as opposed to some of the other stuff. And look, he's not alone in this, where there's a lot of college football coaches right now who are frustrated by all the other stuff that now is a part of the job now in terms of the job requirement. I don't see him wanting to be the carnival barker guy to rally to get money. I mean, he does not even on social media. So I think some of these things just really did not line up. And the fact when the Ohio State offensive coordinator job came open, I think it was very, compelling for him because his relationship with Ryan Day. I mean, he grew up a mile down the road from Ryan Day. He recruited Ryan Day to New Hampshire. Then Ryan Day broke in as a coach under him. And then Kelly brought him with him to Philadelphia and then to the 49ers. Their families are close. So I think it was probably a win-win. I don't think he would have left for probably any other college offensive coordinator job, but I think to go work with Ryan Day there where the resources they have, and I don't think he's going to have to be involved in some of the stuff he didn't want to be involved in, I think that probably seemed like a really good fit.
You have to wonder if some of these coaches just don't want to deal with college football anymore with the NIL rules.
No, I mean, I've heard from a bunch of them that it gets to be really frustrating. I think it gets to be really frustrating because on one hand, there's the aspect of you are recruiting and then all of a sudden, once the conversation turned to money, and I've talked to guys on the UCLA staff about this within the last 2 weeks, and one of the assistants was like, yeah, whenever they would ask, I'm like, we have zilch. We have no money. So they're competing against teams that their NIL war chest is into the 8 figures, and UCLA's, from what I was told, was not even in the 7 figure. So that's an uphill battle. And the flip side of it also is there are some coaches also see some of the challenges that come from NIL in terms of what it can do to the locker room. It's not to say that players aren't deserving or that it shouldn't be going into some of this direction, but I think there's also some challenges that come with it. I think it's not, it's not insignificant that the team across town didn't even win it. UCLA won 8 games and beat USC pretty handily, and USC didn't even win that many, and they have 3 collectives and were much more involved on the NIL front. So it's not to say if you're all in on that, you're assured of everything's gonna be better. I think it gives you probably a better chance, but there's challenges that come with it too.
I'm all for these players getting paid and getting reimbursed, or if there's any other word to say it, for the time and effort that they put into it. I think you're 100% right about the division in the locker room. We've seen images of players pulling up in Lambos, and that's not exactly what people had in mind when they said, give them a shot to be paid for what they're doing. You mentioned UCLA. Deshawn Foster announced as the new head coach. I love that so much from my years covering him when he came straight out of Tustin and went right up the 405 to go to UCLA. And I'm wondering, how successful do you think he can be there?
So, it's going to be interesting to see. Everybody likes Deshawn, right? You've been around he's just a good guy. He has a good way about him. He was a great player there. It wasn't just like they hired a guy who was a great player in the NFL, but like he was one of the best position coaches in the Pac-12. He developed really good players. I know from guys I've talked to on the staff said he's a disciplinarian. He knows how to solve problems. He had the pulse of the team. All those things are really good. I would not worry that, he's never been a coordinator, because he's going to hire somebody to call plays. I also think the fact that he was a great player there and is really well liked, not just by people inside the program, but by former players. Now it's the thing is, all the UCLA fans who are kind of over what they've had for the last 5-6 years, now they really need to step up and support the program in a big way. And it'll be interesting to see if they can ramp that up. I think he's going to probably keep a lot of the same assistants that Kelly had. And look, I think that because he's been there for a long time, he has a lot of familiarity. I know he left for the Raiders for like a couple of weeks, but I think given the circumstances, to me, this was probably about as good a hire. I think of all the people I heard were in the mix as serious candidates when this started, including Deshawn, I think this is probably as good a hire as they could have made.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.